Week number 3 here on the Browns preview show. G. Bush and my man John Costco was with me. And listen, we got a lot to get into today. Browns versus the Giants, first game at First Energy Stadium. The Browns come out and get another win. John, what do you think of the game and so forth, and actually getting back to having people in the stadium in Cleveland?
First drive, they executed well, drove down the field and scored. Everything looked really good from that standpoint, but then the offense kind of did sputter for large chunks of the game. And I think that kind of showed why having a starting quarterback like Baker Mayfield is important to this team. I know it was kind of downplayed on Twitter while the game was going just because one drive was good, but quarterbacks didn't play very well. And that's kind of why the offense looks stagnant in this game. But I think you take away the quarterbacks from this game, the team really kind of executed at a pretty good level. They filled their run gaps on defense. They covered well for the most part. And then they executed in a run game, and I think the receivers were battling out there. They made some spectacular catches, bailing out these quarterbacks in a couple of instances. So I think from a overall standpoint, the team played really well, and the fact that it wasn't the starters and that they showed that type of level of play is encouraging signs.
Yeah, one of the things that I was really encouraged about was the simple fact that Coach Kevin Stefanski looked like he was ready to go. In terms of his offensive play calling, I thought he did a really good job of mixing it up. One of his strong suits is calling the plays, and I think he had a midseason rhythm going. He wasn't doing anything, I would call it middle of the road, just easy reads, different things like that. But one of the things that's really encouraging with that is the simple fact that he really did have it moving. He had it going. I thought the running backs looked good. I thought Demetric Felton looked well. I think this guy named Kelly looks okay. He's a guy who is a big back, moves pretty well, catches the ball. He's shown he's had the ability to catch the ball with his hands. I thought he showed nice bursts to the corner of the end zone on that outside play when he scored a touchdown. And I think it's a really tough decision for the Browns moving forward. When you look at it, I don't know if he's going to be able to make this team because Demetric Felton looks like a guy who could play receiver. He looks like he's going to play special teams. It looks like you play running back. But the Kelly guy, keeping 4 running backs, I don't know if he can play special teams, but I thought he looked pretty good. Hey, Davis coming up with another big catch. He's just continuing to make catches. And receiver and running back are going to be 2 positions for this team that are going to be very difficult to make. Cordell Hodge is always in the mix. Obviously you got, Hollywood Higgins, and then you have the other receivers and the guy who's Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's played really well this preseason. So there's going to be some hard decisions. And do you think, somebody's going to make the team that you didn't really necessarily think? I thought Dearness Johnson looked good as always the last couple games solid.
Yeah, it's a battle at that running back position for sure, because John Kelly is great in this game, was a 90.1, highest grade on the offense. Really solid in the receiving game, run game. He looks explosive out there. So I think, the Browns have a really good problem for maybe the first time in a long time, is that they have too much talent, and the fact that they're going to be able to maybe utilize some of these guys as trade assets at cut down time rather than just outright cutting their guys and looking to other rosters to fill holes that the Browns have. They know they are no longer in that position. They might look to fill some positions for depth, but they're not looking for starters to be able to plug and play that they need like they have in the past. So I think John Kelly is really making some noise for himself to become on that 53-man roster. And if not, there's going to be a team that might be calling for him. And then that, like you said, the wide receiver group. I mean, that's going to be that's a battle for that 5 and 6 position there, because I think you want Anthony Schwartz's speed. He's going to make the roster if as long as he's healthy. He's not going to be put on IR or anything like that. He might get put on IR at 53-man cut down time. That way you can keep some of these guys like Kadero Hodge and Davion Davis. I know Davion Davis has the suspension for the first 2 games of the season, but I mean, those guys are really, really battling out there for that spot. And it really looks deep, and you can see that they understand the situation here. The Browns are a Super Bowl contending team, and they want to be a part of this. So the level of competition has been raised a lot, and teams are going to come calling for these guys.
So let's transition to we talked about the good. Let's go about the ugly or the bad. Now, there wasn't much ugly we could talk about against the Jaguars, but I saw some things going on that was kind of crazy in terms of the game. I didn't like what I saw up front. It looked like Billings is about 10 pounds overweight right now. Obviously, he didn't get an opportunity to play last week, or excuse me, last year due to he opted out due to the COVID. I thought he looked a little gassed. I think he needs to be in better shape. I think they gassed just on the run a little bit, man. I thought the Giants came out and ran the ball very well the first couple drives. They had a lot of guys that it wasn't like we were bringing the wood to these guys instead of bringing energy when you're tackling. So I thought there was a lot left to be desired. We haven't seen Malik Jackson at all during this offseason. Tack McKinley, I'm guessing he's back in the mix, but we haven't seen Tack all year. So I'm cautious. I think they'll get it together. Myles Garrett and Clowney making things a lot better, but I think Billings, to me, I just didn't see the level of run stop capabilities that he's been touted as. What say you?
Yeah, he wasn't. His grade in this game was a 61.5. It's not good enough for your guy that you're supposed to be bringing in to be your run stuffer. Maybe some of that's rust, not playing a year. That takes its toll, right? You gotta get back into the swing of things. You've got to get that live action back. But then again, Malik McDowell didn't have any, he hasn't played since 2015, 2016 in college. And he came out here in his first game in the NFL preseason or regular season, and he had a 91.7. He was a monster in this game. So I think it's an interesting, maybe dichotomy there. I don't know what's going on with Billings. Maybe like you said, he looks a little bit overweight. Maybe he needs to slim down a little bit, get in better shape, and maybe he's working on that. Hopefully he is, because I think this defensive tackle position it's not necessarily like star-studded by any means, but I think it's deep in terms of the potential talent that is there. Jordan Elliott had a really good game at a 79.3 and overall.
Mm-hmm.
So he's looking pretty solid. He looks like he's improved from last year, where he was one of the lowest graded defensive tackles in the NFL. So I think Andrew Billings, you definitely want to see more from him, because you need him to start and you need him to be good against a run in order for this defense to work like the way you want it to, where you can have multiple defensive backs out there and not have to worry about getting an extra linebacker or out there to cover for the run. So Andrew Billings definitely needs to be able to step it up and perform at a higher level, especially when he was just going against backups.
That's another thing. Another guy. I was joking after the Browns game and doing the post game, and I said, "Man, listen, if you out there during this game, you out there for a reason. Coach would still want to see something from you. If you was on the sideline hanging out, that means you got a spot or you're really injured." But when we see Mac Wilson came back in the third quarter. He came back after halftime and was still out there, still going down there on the goal line. I'm like, man, Mac Wilson, you still in the game, bro? Man, I don't look good. You got something to prove, dog. And I didn't see too many plays out there being made. I didn't see, for a guy who was a starter for some of the games and getting a lot of playing time, if you are out there after halftime with the threes, you got to make something happen, man. And I just didn't see it.
No, Mac Wilson didn't, his grade was better than last week, which is not saying much. He was down in the 29 grade level, and this game was a 60.3. So, and again, you want to see more consistency, better run gap fits. He's okay in coverage. I suppose it's not like he was anything glaringly bad, but for him, he's fighting for that last linebacker position. You need to see him perform at a higher level, and especially when he's been a starter, he's definitely got significant snaps. You want to be able to see him perform better against the third stringers of the the opposing team, and he's not doing that. And one of my predictions of a couple weeks ago was that he wouldn't make the 53-man roster. He might by default because of some injuries that have happened, but I just don't see, based on his play, that he should be making that final 53.
Those are our thoughts for the games against the Giants. We'll shift gears and get to what we think about the Falcons. That game coming up on Sunday. Also, when we get back, we're going to go to the video vault, and one of the most electrifying players in all of the Browns history is going to get highlighted in that. And when we get back, we'll go around the league as well. It's the Browns preview show on the Barbershop Network.
Royals punting to Metcalf. Backpedals to take it at the 10. And a good return. He's got a blocker in front. Metcalf cuts back. Turns on the afterburner. Metcalf will go 90 yards. This place. There may be your answer right there.
There was a lot of question as to whether or not Metcalf was even going to play in this game. He was struggling with a knee injury. As you can see him limping down the field here at about a 4.2 pace. Wow. There are some moments in the National Football League where you don't mind paying the 25 or 30 bucks for a ticket. You watch a kid like this play the game.
Royals with a punt. Eric Metcalf has already taken 191 yards for a score. He has this one at the 25. Metcalf to the outside with room. Metcalf at midfield. Metcalf cuts back. He's still on his feet. Metcalf will go for the score. Unbelievable.
Taking a couple of steps up, that set up the wall, and watch the little guy work. Watch the heart. No way you keep him out of the end zone. 2 in 1 day? Are you kidding me? Remember, he came into the ball game. He was questionable. Didn't even practice until Friday. Had a bad knee. What a play. What a player. And can you imagine the moment?
All right, welcome back to the Browns preview show on the Barbershop Network. I'm G. Bush. My co-host is always rocking with me, John Costco of Pro Football Focus. Man, them bring back some crazy memories, man. Eric Metcalf, man. What are some of the most fondest memories of Eric Metcalf? And I always tell people, I thought he was before his time, man. I thought he was way before his time.
Is what I was going to say. He was before his time. I would love to have seen what he could do in today's NFL because of the transition of how running backs are no longer this ground and pound. You need that one bell cow type guy. He's that scat back in the day, but you could move him all over the place. He can be your Alvin Kamara, that type of guy now, if he was in the league today. So I would have loved to have seen what he could do. And because he was fun to watch back in the day. And, I was a kid, but he was my favorite player on the Browns team, in late 80s, early 90s. So I loved watching him play. He was electric.
Those 2 kickbacks that he took back against the Steelers, what sits so well with me was for the simple fact that back then, the Browns and Steelers was going back and forth. And you look at it, those are big time games. We haven't had that many people shine in big games. Even the games Josh Gordon or James Harrison ran for record yards. I'm thinking James Harrison, I think against Kansas City, ran for like 280 yards or something stupid. Josh Gordon actually caught 2 back-to-back games of 200 plus receiving yards, but the Browns were terrible. They weren't doing anything. What made it special was Eric Metcalf was doing that against the Steelers in the primetime game when it counted. So I'll always remember that, and it just sticks with me to this day.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like William Green when he made that run. Everybody doesn't remember that.
Yeah.
You know, everybody kind of remembers, you know, Josh Gordon is record-breaking stuff, but you know the team was not any good, right? So you know, you think about Joe Thomas, and he was a stalwart for so long, but he was on bad teams. So it's like there's not really, the only memory maybe people have of him is when he, you know, had this 10,363 straight snaps or whatever it was. That's like people's memory of him, which is kind of, I mean, it's a great accomplishment, but it's kind of sad that you can't have bigger and better memories of a guy like that who's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you know, all too often we've had a lot of guys, Josh Cribbs, a lot of guys like that. I did an episode on the website, basically, you know, underrated or guys that people forgot about. People even forget Brian Sight won an MVP one year. I was like, this is crazy. But it just goes to show you we haven't had enough long-term success to get to it. Speaking of long-term success, let's get to, you know, behind enemy lines and talk a little bit about the team that the Browns are going to play next week or coming up this week. The Atlanta Falcons, it seemed to go downhill a little bit for the Falcons. In terms of you're up, what, I believe 28-3 at halftime, 28-3 at halftime to Tom Brady and the Patriots, and you lose that game, and the wheels have fallen off a little bit in terms of what the Falcons are and who they are and who they aren't. Julio Jones is no longer with that team anymore. You know, Matt Ryan won an MVP the year they went to the Super Bowl. He took a little step back. So now you got guys like Calvin Ridley. Let's start with Julio Jones not being in there, moving to Tennessee. What does he have left? You know, what does Julio Jones have left in his tank? And what can he offer a team like the Tennessee Titans?
Well, I think he's got plenty left in the tank as long as he stays healthy. Even when he played last year, he had one of the highest yards per route run in the NFL. So he's a guy that can definitely, you know, provide a spark and consistent weapon for the Tennessee Titans.
And, well, you look at it. One of the things, though, you mentioned that, go right to the other guy who's also used to play beside him, one Calvin Ridley out of Alabama. When you look at him, he has the size of a slot receiver. He has the frame for a slot receiver. But when you look at him in terms of you grading him and what he's done, does he have the ability to be the number one receiver? His numbers sure say, you know, he's up there around 1,300 yards last year, 90 catches. So he has number one numbers. But what do you say about his skill set?
Absolutely. He's one of the best route runners in the NFL. You saw that he was able to get it done without Julio on the field. He was getting it done with him on the field. So you had to maybe think about, you know, Atlanta wanted to probably see, all right, can this guy lead the wide receiver, you know, room without Julio there? And you saw that last year that he could. Granted, you know, the Falcons didn't have a great year and they didn't make the playoffs and stuff like that, but he more than enough held his own. So I think Calvin Ridley, he brings electric downfield speed and then a really good crisp route running along with it and sure hands. So he's a guy that can be that number one wide receiver now that Julio's gone. But then what's, you know, for the benefit of Atlanta is that they lose Julio Jones, which you can't replace a Julio Jones. If he would be still on the team, that would be much better for them. But they did add a Kyle Pitts, who is kind of like a mini Julio Jones coming into the league. He's basically a you know, a wide receiver and rather than a tight end. So you can bring another weapon in there like that. He's not going to replace Julio Jones, but you can at least get somewhere there with that type of talent.
Let's go behind the numbers a little bit with Mr. Pitts. A lot of guys, we heard that same cliche talk. He's not a tight end. He's a weapon. I'm like, bro, y'all gotta stop saying that, man. Yeah, he's a weapon to be used by his own means. What does that even mean, bro? When you look at Kyle Pitts, a lot of people had Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, a lot of people had him rated the highest tight end to ever play football. What say you at Pro Football Focus in your grading system with Kyle Pitts and what he can bring to the table with the Falcons coming out of college.
Well, in college, he had the single highest graded season in PFF history from a tight end, and generally actually from any position on offense. His grade was astronomical at a 96.1, receiving grade 96.2 overall. So he is legit, is the real deal. And he wasn't just a glorified wide receiver that they called a tight end. He did line up as a tight end. He did obviously split out wide and in the slot, but the most of his work he did from the inline position at the tight end position. So he is legit. The one thing that I always look at when it comes to tight ends is that you have two tight ends in NFL history that have really succeeded and like excelled as a rookie, and that'd be Rob Gronkowski and Mike Ditka. So other than that, you've got he might play well for a rookie, but playing well for a rookie tight end is not easy to do, because it's probably outside quarterback, the hardest position on the field to learn, because in the NFL, you've got to be able to block those guys that are no longer, weaklings compared to you. They're much more your equal, and therefore, and also stronger than you. So you have to be able to do that. You have to be able to learn the routes. So you're in there with the rooms in the O-line rooms, learning all the blocking techniques that they want, the offensive line wants you to have. And then you have to be on the same page with them in the run game and in the pass game, and then also run your routes too. So it's one of the hardest things to do. But he is a stud. If you just tell him to run routes and he can get there, and you can utilize that weapon that he is. But again, I bring it with a grain of salt or caveat that the tight ends really struggle as a rookie typically.
Looking at the signal caller, Matt Ryan had a funny career. I think he's this generation's Phillip Rivers, right? I don't know if he's in Hall of Fame quarterback. I don't know if you would call him super elite, but I mean, he's thrown for just as about as any yards as a lot of people. I mean, he's thrown to Roddy White. He's thrown to Julio Jones. They just got him Kyle Pitts, and we just talked about Calvin Ridley. So it's not like he has not had ball players to throw the ball to. But when you overall look at his place in history and his place in the game, would you consider him in that elite of elite, or do you kind of consider it's just the way the league is now, where they look at him sort of a way they look at maybe a guy like Matt Stafford?
I wouldn't consider him the elite of elite. I think he's a guy that has been one of the best quarterbacks every year in the NFL, but his grade, you look at it from a grade standpoint, he's always graded in the low to mid 80s, which puts you basically right into that second tier position for quarterbacks. He's always just been on the outside looking in at that elite tier, where the elite tier is like, obviously Tom Brady. There was Peyton Manning for a lot of Matt Ryan's career, Aaron Rodgers, and then when Russell Wilson came in, he is grading it close to the 90s. Now Patrick Mahomes doing that too. Matt Ryan's had 1 year over 90, and that was the Super Bowl year that they almost won it. I wouldn't put him in that tier, and I would say because of that, you probably can't say that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. Had he put a Super Bowl, ring on that, had solidified that Super Bowl, there's an argument there. I think because quarterbacks are always judged by those Super Bowls. I think look at Eli Manning. He's better than Eli Manning. He's always been better than Eli Manning.
And Manning he's gonna give you 20. He can give you 20 picks in a year, easy.
And he's gonna go to the Hall of Fame because of his 2 Super Bowl rings. That's kind of what it is. But Matt Ryan, who's been a better quarterback, just because he just happened to not have the talent, the better team around him to help him get over that hump. And 1 year that he did, they obviously threw it away in the Super Bowl. It's tough for him to have an argument to say that, yeah, this guy should be in a Hall of Fame, because when you talk about a Hall of Fame, it's like, all right, you were one of the best of your era. And I can't, other than like maybe a 1 year, 2 year segment of his career, you can't say that he was the best. Obviously, he had the MVP and with the Super Bowl, but that was about it. Everything else was like second tier, just not quite good enough to get your team over that hump.
Yeah, I think a lot of people it's a doggone shame. A lot of people played during the Tom Brady era, because they were. I mean, come on, Harry Bradshaw is in there. There's a lot of guys you can scratch. Jim Kelly's in the Hall of Fame. Jim Kelly. Now, granted, Jim Kelly
4 Super Bowls.
Went to 4 Super Bowls. Now we get in this era. It's our time. We're kind of in our prime, is so that we can say we saw some of the older guys go and we watching the younger guys. So a couple of guys are going to be fascinating me. Phillip Rivers, Donovan McNabb, and Matt Ryan. They're going to be really and I will throw in Matt Stafford too. In that little area, because Matt Stafford be throwing for 5,000 yards. Every year for the Lions. I don't know if he's going to count that, but if you're going to put Calvin Johnson in, I mean, don't you kind of have to look at Matt Stafford? I mean, but he hasn't even sniffed playoff wins.
Yeah, I mean, you judge a quarterback differently than you would a wide receiver. I think when you talk about Megatron, like he made the defense play way differently than say going up against Matt Stafford, and you're just kind of like, all right, let's run our defense and we can stop Matt Stafford, because Matt Stafford's a talented quarterback, but you also look at, like, from a grade standpoint too, like, he's not graded. He's a guy that typically grades in your mid to upper 70s, and then he'll have a year or two where he gets into the 80s. Part of that is, he's got, what is he, 33 years old, so he's still got another 7 years that he could turn it around, maybe with the Rams, that he takes his game to another level where he's in a much more advantageous system, scheme, all that stuff. Maybe he gets over that hump. But as it stands right now, Matt Stafford's career has not been anywhere close to what Matt Ryan has done, even Phillip Rivers has done. And then who's the other guy that you talked about? McNabb. McNabb, at least, he went to a Super Bowl. He was contended. He made Philadelphia really competitive. But I don't know if he's quite there yet. So
right. And you should have just cut me off at this. You should have said, G. Bush, Calvin Johnson got the name Megatron. If you got a nickname, bro, you in there, dog. Like, I'm like, yeah, you're right. His name is Megatron. Stop playing.
You had to have, like, guys constantly double teaming him all the time, and he would still make his yards. So
don't demonetize the film, bro. But the cartoon Megatron, the Transformer, he transforms into a blaster of some sort. He doesn't even have a regular robot form. That's how dominant Megatron was. Like, so we'll talk about that later. Hey, welcome back to the Browns preview on the Barbershop Network. When we left, we talked about what we're going to get into next. And when you look at the Browns coming up, we'll talk about who we had as winning the player of the game for both of us. We will also get to our predictions as well. But first, let's get to Around the League. And what we're going to do with Around the League, we're going to do one bold prediction. So in this segment, we just talk about something that we think, this might occur. It may not be, popular. It may not be something that you guys think is going to really is a guarantee, but one bold prediction from each of us this season. And I'm going to start it off. My bold prediction is this. My bold prediction, and I kind of talked about it earlier, is I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers might actually have a better record than the Ravens. I actually...
That's bold.
I think they might have a better. And here's the thing: I'm not a closet Steelers fan. Here's the way why I think about it like that. Is here if Lamar Jackson gets hurt, that is it. I've never seen a team more dependent on what he does ever. Like Patrick Mahomes, yeah, like they could put other people in because it's not specifically tailored to that. Andy Reid can still call plays, but the hopes, dreams, and aspirations are relying on Lamar Jackson. If he's hurt for multiple games or he does not perform up to his capabilities in terms of running the ball. If he's to a point where even he's hobbled a little bit and they don't have the zone read stuff and him, getting out, scrambling, making plays works, I don't think that it's sustainable with a backup. And for the Steelers, to me, yes, Ben Roethlisberger fell off a little bit. But here's the thing about them. They got 3 crazy receivers. They got, 2 guys that have played some in Dwayne Haskins and what's his name, Mason Rudolph. And here's the thing. What if they just decide to say, you know what, we're going to cut down on these throws. We're going to run the ball. And if Najee Harris is that guy and they can find some linemen to step up, I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens have some injuries and then you look at a team like the Steelers. We forget they had, 13 wins? They was like 13-1 or something stupid, right?
Yeah, they went off this. They started off at 11-0 and then
11-0,
5 of the last 6 or something.
So for me,
the last 5, yeah.
For me, it's a bold prediction. Is it likely? No. But here's the thing. I could see them
bold predictions for a reason, right?
Yeah, they bold predictions for a reason. I could see them doing better without Big Ben than Lamar Jackson. So that's my one big bold prediction. Yeah. What do you say?
Yeah, I don't think that is anywhere out of the question. That's for sure. My bold prediction is that Mac Jones is going to win Rookie of the Year.
I did see him play. He was throwing the ball all over the park. That means Cam Newton has looked good when he was throwing. Cam
Newton has looked good, but also part of it, right? So Cam Newton's in this COVID protocol situation that he's dealing with or whatever. So it gives Mac Jones an opportunity to kind of take the starting job away from him, because there's definitely a battle that's going on. And when you look at what Mac Jones has done out there, he looks comfortable. He looks comfortable, and I don't care if it's preseason or not. You look at like Trey Lance and you look at Trevor Lawrence and like these other quarterbacks that were drafted, they don't look comfortable because they're not, they're looking a little bit more sporadic and stuff like that. Mac Jones looks comfortable in this offense, and he's delivering strikes. He's throwing it accurately. He hasn't thrown any turnover where he throws. He's making some big time throws out there. He's executing offense, and he's grading at an elite level. So like, oh, well, it's great. You're grading an elite level in preseason. It's like, well, none of these other guys are doing that. So why aren't they doing it if it's so easy to do, right? And also you look at him, he had put up the single highest graded season in PFF college's history. I don't think that's anything light to take away from this. I think it's people, I think even at PFF, people are kind of downplaying that, how impressive that really is. And I don't care if yes, he had Alabama's receivers to throw to, but like Jalen Waddle was hurt, and so all he had was Devonta Smith in terms of that top tier type guy. So he had to get it to these other guys that maybe weren't quite at that level yet. Maybe they potentially will become first round talents and stuff like that. But I think that Mac Jones can take away the starting job from Cam Newton and potentially get the Patriots to the playoffs. And if he does that, that's kind of writes it on the wall for a quarterback winning Rookie of the Year.
So for me, let me ask you this too. If you say that bold prediction, you look at it, if say Justin Fields wins the job in Chicago, do you foresee him having a small edge, basically because he's a running quarterback? He can get a couple extra touchdowns on the goal line, maybe rack up a couple games where he got 80 to 100 yards on the ground. Do you think that's something that can propel Justin Fields past Mac Jones in terms of Rookie of the Year if he is named a starter?
If he's named a starter early enough. I think if he's not, think about it like a Lamar Jackson situation as a rookie. He didn't get to become a starter until midway through the season. By that time, it's too late to become to show the world and have a full season to become that rookie of the year. And then also at the same time, Baker Mayfield was having a phenomenal season as a rookie, and so was Saquon Barkley. But if he could start early enough, there is that for sure that potential. I think with Justin Fields' issue, I think you probably see this. I mean, obviously in this game, he took a monster hit that he needs to be aware of that type of stuff, and he did that type of stuff in college where he would hold on to the ball too long. And I think he's still doing that type of thing. I want to see him sit because he's got this tremendous talent. He's probably the most accurate quarterback of this whole class. And I think he still needs to develop so he can read defenses a little bit better and know when to get rid of the ball more quickly, because he's holding on to the ball like average of 3.88 seconds for time to throw. That's astronomically long. So like what he's doing is he's holding a ball and kind of like trying to improv of what's going on down there rather than throwing with rhythm and timing in the offense. So like he has the talent to be rookie of the year type guy. But for his sake, I want to see him sit so he can manage blitz protections and stuff like that better.
Those are our top choices for bold predictions. As always, put in the comment section if you do agree or disagree, and give us your one bold prediction for 2021 NFL season moving forward. All right, let's get to the game balls. Let's get to the people we think really showed up and showed out and were player of the games against the Giants on Sunday. For me, I think it's pretty easy. I'm going to go with Kelly. I thought he played well. I thought he made us recognize that he may be a guy that could stick around. I think he made the coaches and general managers' decisions that much more difficult, because given what I've seen, I don't think that they might be able to stash him on a practice squad, or somebody is going to pick him up, because I think he's showed in at least a burst for a big back that I didn't know he had. I think he's caught the ball well. We've talked about it for the last 2 weeks, and I think Kelly has shown that he's an NFL back. So shout out to him, and that's my player of the game. Who do you got as player of the game for your Cleveland Browns coming up and talking about what they did last Sunday?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Malik McDowell. I think he had 25 snaps. His, grade was at an elite level of 91.7. Run defense, 83.9, 87.5. Pass rush, had the sack, had a big, stop on the goal line and the 2-point situation. Had, bull rush the center, I think. And then, basically kind of fell into the tackle to help solidify basically the win for the team. And it was just all around disruptive on a pretty much a snap by snap basis. So for me, it was Malik McDowell. And it was a pleasant surprise to see him play at such a high level.
No doubt, man. So shout out to those two individuals. Looking forward to seeing what these guys can continue to do, because now coming up, cut down is coming. So now is the last time that you got to shine before they start, getting ready for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think this is going to be a game where the borderline guys are really going to have to step up. And if a veteran or two who is borderline, they're going to have to make a couple plays to kind of solidify their place on this roster. In conclusion, let's talk about the game on Sunday. What are your predictions for the Browns, and what are you looking to see in the final score for the Browns Falcons?
Well, it depends on if is Kevin Stefanski going to play starters or not. I think that's the biggest question I have of, is his philosophy to not sit starters, or to not play starters, or to play them in the preseason. So I think if we see the starters, I want to see them execute the pseudo game plan that they have, and just to be, kind of efficient and just kind of execute basically. And if they don't play, I want to see the backups kind of be better than what they were this past week. I think they struggled after that first drive of the game. And from a pass protection standpoint, the offensive line was quite bad. And I want to see them improve from that. So I think it's you want to protect those quarterbacks that are just not as good. And to be a little bit more efficient from a passing game standpoint, and, not make those wide receivers have to really fight for balls that are underthrown or thrown into coverage and stuff like that. So that'd be what I'd be looking for in a prediction. I don't know, 27-23.
Yeah. I agree. We'll start with what I want to see. I'm interested in seeing if Stefanski once again will play anybody. I think with 2 weeks left, you can either go either way. If he decides to play a couple guys, just to play them because they're not going to have anything for 2 more weeks before they get time to start for Kansas City. I'm anxious to see if he's going to do that. I'm also anxious to see some of the battles, whether or not Greedy Williams is going to be able to hold off Newsome. I think right now, if you was asking me, I think Newsome would probably start opposite Denzel Ward. If you asked me right now, Greedy Williams got the lower body hamstring or growing, whatever the case may be. And so I think they're actually just planning and watching to see whether or not Newsome can play some of the nickel in the slot. I think they're just trying to see what position he can put him in, whether or not you want to start him outside and just keep Troy Hill where he's comfortable and most productive at, or if they think, all right, well, we'll move him inside because I think we can get our best 3 on the field. So I'm interested in seeing that. And as far as the score go, I'll go something. I think it's a little low scoring affair. I might give it a 17-10 type feel for the Browns, and I'll say they end up undefeated in the preseason. So always keep it locked. We will, if you want to keep supporting the channel, please make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure you share this. Make sure you like and comment. This helps us, spread this content all over the internet, all over YouTube. We put a lot of time and energy and effort into this project, and we try to give objective, entertaining, commentary on not only the Browns but AFC North teams and all around the NFL. So keep supporting that, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified of when the Browns preview and me and John do any other videos. As always, thank you for showing up. This is Garrett Bush in the Barbershop, signing off for John Costco. This is the Browns Preview Show on the Barbershop Network.